In November 1942, 13 American ships, none larger than a heavy cruiser, knifed through the dark, restless Pacific. They steamed headlong into the jaws of a massive Japanese task force boasting at least 2 battleships. Their orders were clear and brutal. Get the big ones. At the forefront was USS Fletcher, a gleaming new destroyer, the first of what would become the war's most iconic class. The moment they made contact, all hell broke loose. In the pitch-black night, chaos reigned. Friends and foes became a tangled blur. Trying to pierce the confusion, a Japanese light cruiser lit up its searchlights, only to be torn apart by a blistering burst of American fire, shredded within seconds. Madness exploded across the waters. Japanese destroyers snaked down the starboard side, unleashing a lethal fan of torpedoes. Beside Fletcher, USS Barton took a hit midship, erupted into flames, and vanished beneath the waves in moments. But the nightmare wasn't over. With Fletcher in their sights, the Japanese launched another salvo of torpedoes. In the ghostly glow of gunfire and burning wrecks, Fletcher's lookout spotted the chilling streaks racing toward the starboard side. No time to shout. Too late. They braced for impact. Then, nothing. No explosion. No fiery end. Just thin trails of bubbles. 1 torpedo passed forward, 1 aft, and 3 slid directly underneath the ship. The torpedoes had run mere inches too deep, skimming just below Fletcher's keel. When the smoke cleared, USS Fletcher stood alone, untouched. American sailors, dazed and disbelieving, sought a reason. They eyed her hull number, 445. Adding the digits, they got 13. From that night, Fletcher was Lucky 13, a name she would continue to earn in World War II's grimmest battles. As World War II approached, the U.S. faced the unique 2-ocean Navy challenge, requiring dominance in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Germany's naval ambitions threatened the Atlantic, while Japan's militarization posed a significant Pacific threat. The U.S. needed a navy capable of dual ocean operations, prompting the development of the versatile Fletcher-class destroyer in the late 1930s. These ships were designed for multi-role capability, enabling them to perform anti-submarine warfare, surface action, convoy escort, and shore bombardment. Their extended range allowed for long-distance operations, crucial in the Pacific with its distant supply bases, and their endurance supported sustained naval presence. The Fletcher class was armed with 5 5-inch 38 caliber guns, 10 21-inch torpedo tubes, anti-aircraft guns, and depth charges, making them effective against various threats. Advanced radar and sonar systems enhanced their defensive capabilities. The U.S. produced 175 Fletcher-class destroyers, the largest class built during the war, ensuring a substantial naval presence across both oceans. Their efficient design allowed rapid production to meet the demands of a 2-ocean war. In combat, their speed, maneuverability, and firepower provided tactical advantages, supporting significant battles and campaigns, such as the Battle of Leyte Gulf and the Solomon Islands campaign, underscoring their critical role in achieving naval superiority. The first of these promising new destroyers was USS Fletcher, a modern, swift, and powerful tin can that soon proved the massive potential its entire class would bring to the U.S. Navy. Fletcher was commissioned in June 1942 and started escort and patrol duties in the Guadalcanal campaign as soon as she landed at Noumea, New Caledonia, from the East Coast on October 5, 1942. This is when, as written by fate, the number 13 started to appear everywhere around Fletcher. On November 13th, 13 U.S. ships were urgently dispatched to stop a Japanese incursion. A massive enemy task force, including at least 2 towering battleships, rounded Savo Island and stormed full speed into Guadalcanal Bay. Their mission was brutally simple: to crush the U.S. Marines wresting Guadalcanal from Hideki Tojo's troops. Facing overwhelming odds, the American task force commander rallied his crew with these words, quote, "The time has come for fine ships and brave men to be called upon to do their utmost." Then he ordered them to target the big ones, referring to the Japanese battleships. The clash erupted in utter darkness, lasting no more than 25 nightmarish minutes. The American ships kicked off the fight by blasting a Japanese light cruiser out of the water as she tried to light up the scene with searchlights. The first close call came when Japanese destroyers sneaked down the starboard side and unleashed a wave of torpedoes. Ahead, the 1,650-ton destroyer Barton took a hit amidships. She erupted into flames and sank in seconds, leaving only a flickering mass of debris to mark her grave. Amid the flashing guns and burning ships, Fletcher's lookout spotted certain destruction churning the water. 5 torpedoes streaked toward the starboard side. There was no time to shout a warning. It was too late. Then, no explosion, no plunge into eternity. Just faint stripes of bubbles drifting by the ship. One forward, one behind the ship, and 3 directly underneath. A flawless torpedo spread had run a couple inches too deep, just enough to clear Fletcher's keel. Was it the hesitant hand of a frightened Japanese torpedo man, faulty mechanisms, or just Fletcher's luck? After 15 minutes, the evidence favored chance, as just 3 U.S. ships, all destroyers, were still intact. Despite a close-quarters engagement with a Japanese light cruiser and a brief encounter with a battleship, Fletcher was one of them. 3 American warships sustained damage, and 2 were sunk. Every cruiser had sustained severe damage. The unscathed tin can trio pressed the attack, scoring hits on cruisers and a battleship. During a lull, as Fletcher shifted targets, the skipper called to the executive officer, quote, "Bill, just where in the hell are we now?" The man responded, quote, "Right in the middle of the whole damn Jap fleet. Turn hard right or left, and let's get out of here." At flank speed, the helmsman spun the wheel, and Fletcher headed for the friendly darkness of Guadalcanal shoreline. Behind them lay a graveyard of broken and burning ships, some slowly sinking, others erupting in a hail of tracer shells and pyrotechnics as their magazines detonated. As Fletcher made her way toward shore, her search radar detected an approaching vessel on the port quarter. The gunnery officer wondered if it could be another friendly ship heading for the rendezvous point. Below deck, in the plotting room, the fire controlman frantically operated the Mark I computer, calculating the firing solution. The radar range operator confirmed the target was locked. The plotting room reported a solution and allowed the computer to take control, positioning the guns. As Fletcher prepared to fire, a blinding white light from a star shell revealed their target, a massive Japanese ship. Why this giant enemy vessel wasn't firing back was a mystery. The silence was ominous. The captain ordered the smokescreen generators activated, and a thick, dark cloud billowed aft. The torpedo officer ensured the torpedoes were ready. Executing a sharp turn, Fletcher moved into position. The torpedo officer asked, quote, "How many shall we fire in the first salvo, Captain?" The skipper replied, quote, "Better get rid of them all this time, son. We're not coming back for a second helping." 10 torpedoes, each loaded with high explosives, entered the water and began their course. As Fletcher reversed toward the rendezvous point, the crew counted the seconds, waiting for the explosions that would signify the end of a major Japanese fleet unit and the Battle of Savo Island. Miraculously unscathed, Fletcher left behind the wreckage of the Japanese cruiser, sinking into Iron Bottom Bay. The positions of the 2 ships could easily have been reversed if Fletcher had not had incredible luck. After bursting onto the scene, USS Fletcher quickly became a linchpin for the U.S. Navy in 1943. Her operations in the Solomon Islands were relentless and action-packed. She prowled treacherous waters, shelling shore targets with brutal precision, fending off relentless Japanese air assaults, rescuing downed aviators from the sea, sinking enemy landing barges, and providing critical cover for landing operations on Guadalcanal's northern coast. On February 11, 1943, Fletcher sprang into action, alerted by a smoke float dropped by a plane from the cruiser USS Helena. She tore through the waves at top speed, hunting down and obliterating the Japanese submarine I-18. Her guns blazed again on February 21st, supporting the Russell Islands landings. On the night of March 5th and 6th, she unleashed a torrent of firepower on Munda Airfield in New Georgia, safeguarding vital transport movements in the Solomons. From April 23rd to May 4th, 1943, Fletcher underwent a refit in Sydney, Australia, gearing up for another fierce month in the Solomons. During a routine nighttime patrol, an Allied destroyer task force, led by Fletcher, surprised 5 Japanese destroyers escorting barges laden with soldiers. The Japanese destroyers immediately abandoned the barges to their fate. The captain called for full steam and gave chase. What followed was a blistering nighttime pursuit across an endless ocean of darkness, the only light coming from firing guns. Shells and powder from the storage depot had to be moved by hand to load the guns, and after firing continuously for what seemed like an eternity, the men needed rest. The captain had the ship go in a slightly diagonal direction, allowing the aft mounts to turn out, clear the superstructure, and fire. By night, radar played a crucial role. The enemy was visible only when their cannons discharged. Even the Combat Information Center struggled to keep cannons on target as the ship hurtled at nearly 40 miles an hour. This chase spanned about 150 kilometers. The Japanese destroyers fired constantly during the nearly 4-hour pursuit, and Fletcher was the closest. With skillful maneuvering, she evaded incoming torpedoes by presenting a narrow target. Japanese shells fell near the ship, only to vanish into the ocean's darkness. Suddenly, an observer on Fletcher reported a massive fireball rising from one of the enemy destroyers. One sailor recalled, quote, "One destroyer had stopped momentarily, then proceeded again." The enemy ship's bridge was possibly severely damaged by a nearby explosion, causing a brief delay as control transferred to aft steering. Fletcher's crew would never learn the result of their hit, as low fuel and proximity to Japanese airfields forced them to turn back. After that intense pursuit, during the cataclysmic Battle of Surigao Strait on October 24th and 25th, Fletcher was part of the forces that helped block and destroy the Japanese Southern Force, contributing to a decisive defeat of the Japanese Navy. The destroyer's effective use of radar and coordination with other ships played a crucial role in detecting and engaging enemy vessels, securing a pivotal Allied triumph on the path to victory. Fletcher's exceptional and lucky career roared on through the war's final year. On January 4th, 1945, she stormed out of San Pedro Bay, destined to support the Luzon attack force. 4 days later, she blasted a Japanese aircraft out of the sky. At the Lingayen Gulf landings on January 9th, she stood as a vigilant guardian. On January 29th, she supported the San Antonio beach landings, and by January 31st, she rained fire on Nasugbu Bay. By February 13th, Fletcher was deep in the thick of the Bataan and Corregidor occupations, pounding enemy positions and aiding minesweepers in Manila Bay. The following day, tasked with destroying mines, Fletcher crawled through a treacherous minefield. The coast of Corregidor seemed eerily silent until shells splashed near the ship. Engines roared in reverse, backing her up just in time. A shell hit, ripping through the deck near John B. Jensen's battle station. He recalls, quote, "The shell cut open the deck into the chief's living quarters below and put big holes in number 1 gun and disabled the use of number 2 gun. Below decks were the ammunition storage compartments for the damaged guns, and there a fire had started by the exploding shell. I will always believe I was spared." Brave crewmen like Elmer C. Bigelow jumped into action, smothering the flames without a thought for their own safety, saving the ship from what could have been total destruction. Orders came fast. Fletcher had to rescue men from a sinking minesweeper that was much closer to Corregidor. With an active enemy gun waiting to strike again, they braced for the worst. A low-flying plane, trailing white smoke, hid Fletcher from view just in time. Guided by a second spotter plane, Fletcher's gunners obliterated the enemy tunnel, silencing the threat. Fletcher pressed on, supporting landings in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, and Zamboanga, and covering operations in Tarakan. She patrolled and escorted in the Philippines until May 13, 1945, before heading stateside for an overhaul. After World War II, USS Fletcher continued her storied service. Initially deployed to support occupation forces in Japan and China, she later saw action in the Korean War, delivering fierce naval gunfire support. In the 1960s, she underwent a fleet rehabilitation and modernization upgrade, enhancing her anti-submarine capabilities. Fletcher served through the Cold War, participating in training exercises and deployments across the Mediterranean and Pacific. She was finally decommissioned in 1969 and sold for scrap in 1972, marking the end of an illustrious career that spanned nearly 3 decades.